So much vamping. Myron, why are you vamping that song for so long? Because I'm not ready? I was born ready. And the dog was barking. Had to go. The dog, I mean, hates UPS guys, FedEx guys. I wonder what she would do if I let her loose. Anybody here willing to, if I paid you $100, would you be willing to put on one of those suits and let my dog try to destroy you? I'm very curious. Any left-wing progressives out there willing to be attacked by my dog? I don't want to bruise a fellow conservative. Oh, there's so many things I want to talk about. I don't know where to start. I found this this guy called the Black Conservative Perspective. That's the name of his channel. And I really like him. Maybe I should play some of his stuff to start, to get us warmed up. Because anybody who knows me just knows I love the blacks. Oh, so triggering right off the gate, right out of the gate. Okay, so this is Black Conservative Perspective. This came out an hour ago. Let's see what he's playing here.
Speaker, St. Louis and I rise in support of the article of impeachment against Donald J. Trump. If we fail to remove a white supremacist president who incited a white supremacist insurrection, it's communities like Missouri's 1st District that suffer the most. The 117th Congress must understand that we have a mandate to legislate in defense.
This is an old clip. Why is he playing this? Why is this so new? Oh, I think he's making a point.
Of Black lives. The first step in that process is to root out white supremacy, starting with impeaching the white supremacist in chief. Thank you, and I yield back.
Yeah, impeach the white supremacist in chief. I want to bring this up. This is so ironic. Facts. Yeah, let's make this bigger here. Trump hits new poll highs with black Hispanic voters. How can a white supremacist who's gone through the impeachment stuff, this is September 19th, 2023, how is this possible? That a white supremacist can hit new poll highs with black and Hispanic voters? Something's awry. Something's amok. Something doesn't make sense. Either former President Donald Trump's standing in early 2024 is inflated, or we're headed for a sizable realignment in how non-white voters cast their ballots. Multiple polls in recent weeks have shown Trump performing historically well among black and Hispanic voters in head-to-head matchups with Biden, helping him neck and neck with Biden in a way he rarely was during the 2020 matchup. Across 5 high-quality polls that have broken out non-white voters in the past month, Trump is averaging 20% of the black voters. Now, some of you out there who don't know what's going on think 20% is nothing. But no, for white supremacists, that's a good number. Come on, even if you're a progressive, left-winging, granola-crunching, tree-hugging, man-bun-wearing person, that's funny. And 40% of Hispanic voters. Don't forget about the Hispanics. Both numbers, and especially that for black voters, could set up a modern-day records for a Republican in a presidential election. Trump in 2020 just took 8%. Yeah, back in 2020, he wasn't as much of a white supremacist as now. So, of black voters and 36% of Hispanic voters, according to Pew, blah, blah, blah. No Republican presidential candidate in the past 50 years has approached receiving 20%. But it takes a white supremacist to do it. Since Republicans took 18% in 1972, I was just a youngin' back then, and 16% in 76. Yeah, Trump's setting records. Hispanic voters have trended toward GOP in recent elections. How is that possible? GOP is against like Mexicans and South Americans and Central Americans. What? But the party's current high water marks over the past half century are 37% in 1984. But the Washington Post notes, the first thing to note is that the individual poll tends to feature small sample sizes, so we can't trust these polls. Well, wait a minute. Trump actually takes as much as 25% of black voters in a Quinnipiac University poll? Can someone explain this to me? Can someone explain to me how a white supremacist is setting records in poll numbers with people of color? Travis says maybe it's because they're religious. I don't think that's it. My guess is it has to do with issues like, well, the trans issue pops into my head. If you look at polling data on black people in the United States, their views on trans issues like women's spaces, I mean, they don't like it. They don't like men being in women's spaces. Okay, let's see what this guy says.
A few years later.
We also can't conflate the criticism of Israel, the Israeli government, with anti-Semitism. No, I am not anti-Semitic. I have called for peace.
All right, guys, so as promised, I am following up on a video that I made yesterday.
Yeah, this reminds me of, you know, there was a saying a while back, punch a Nazi, that I think came mostly from the left. It's okay to punch a Nazi because Nazis are bad, bad people. But isn't it interesting that we actually have to say to some people on the left, you need to punch yourselves. You need to punch yourselves in the face. I'm all against punching other people, but I'm all for punching yourself. I'm reminded of the Jim Carrey movie, Liar, Liar. You know that scene where he's punching himself? Yeah, if you want to punch yourself, go ahead. But it's interesting to see some people on the left align themselves with Hitler. I saw a tweet the other day where a guy said, you know, Hitler was a bad guy, but you can understand, you can empathize with his hatred for the Jews. Whoa. Crazy stuff. And so some on the far left who would be proud to say, yeah, I punched a Nazi, they're aligning themselves with Hitler, who killed Jews. Isn't it a crazy world?
About the squad boohoo, whining, and crying racism in Congress over Jamal Bowman getting a formal denouncement by Republicans in Congress for his actions of pulling a fire alarm in order to disrupt an official proceeding. Now, during that video, I told you guys I was going to...
See, this is what I was saying about wokeness. Wokeness is when you feel so sorry for a minority or an oppressed group that it causes you to not think objectively, and it causes you to excuse bad behavior. And that African-American gentleman who pulled the fire alarm, there's a clear example of some people excusing that type of behavior. Some people.
To follow up on that video with this video, because there's a whole lot of irony going on in Congress among the squad and the race hustlers of America as the victimhood coalition of the Democrat Party is falling apart, right? It's falling apart because the race hustlers have essentially set the precedent that you don't need to make substantive policy arguments when it comes to defending legislation or when it comes to debating with your political opponent. All you have to do in order to silence dissenting opinions is to just pull the bigotry card, right?
Yeah, or race card. Yeah, there's some truth to that for some people. But I think actually people on the right are more immune to name calling than people on the left. I truly believe that because we're more hard-hearted. We're more cold-hearted. If you view yourself as a very compassionate, loving person who just loves humanity, and then someone calls you a bad name, I mean, that hurts.
Just cry hate, racism, white supremacy, homophobia, transphobia, sexism. Just accuse your opponent of being a bigot.
When you say I'm anti-woke, when you talk about wokeness, you're saying I'm anti-black and I don't want black people to speak up for themselves. I don't want equality and justice
So if you say you're anti-woke, you're anti-black.
for black folks. So I say to those that say wokeness, 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 we're anti-woke. This is not wokeness, what we talked about in here. And you should be on the side of folks.
Yeah, I'm going to open up the room very soon, but let me get the crowd warmed up.
Folks who are woke, because we're saying no more oppression against our community. So whatever else is being thrown around, unless you are saying I'm racist, white supremacist, and I'm bigoted, stop talking about wokeness. And
Yep. Remember my definition of wokeness? Shut down dialogue. Stop talking about this.
you can't tell me that I'm wrong, because I'm from the very movement where this came about.
You can't tell me I'm wrong. Well, you're wrong. Now what are you going to do?
Don't let a fascist tell you what being woke means. But my Republican colleagues.
Yeah, and she goes on and on and on. Here's another video here. Oh, hang on. Is it this one? Yeah, this one.
Indian and American Indian culture, end quote. When confronted about these views over 2 decades later, rather than disavow them, he doubled down on this narrative saying, quote, "It has nothing to do with skin color. I was arguing that those cultures overall are inferior to Western culture." We are not inferior to
Who's we?
any culture.
Who's we?
Speaking as a descendant of one of those cultures.
Yeah, so thanks for giving me a minute to address truly despicable and false attack on me, claiming that anything I've ever said is white supremacist and then trying to imply that that somehow applies today. So I don't know if you want to put those cards back up, but what I argued and what I've argued for my entire adult life is that Western culture is superior in the sense that it promotes individualism and freedom. And I have fought my entire life
Amen.
for freedom around the world, including in Africa, including in Asia, including in India. And I want everyone around the world to have the same opportunities that I do in the United States. There are different places
Don't a lot of people from those countries or places want to come to the United States?
around the world that are in many ways inferior. They have female genital mutilation. They have India, and I want everyone around the world to have the same opportunities that I do in the United States. There are different places around the world that are in many ways inferior. They have female genital mutilation. They have slavery. These are not as good as not mutilating females' genitals and not enslaving people. And so I make no apology. And the idea that this is
Amen.
associated with skin color.
Yeah, don't make an apology for calling certain cultures inferior that you think are inferior. This is another difference, I think, people on the right and the left. Like some people on the left, no, you can't say things like that. It hurts people's feelings. No, you can look at someone and say, these actions that you're doing are inferior to my actions. And here's why. It's okay to say that.
Is despicable and racist. Skin color has nothing to do with ideas. Where you came from geographically is irrelevant. What's relevant is what's true.
Yeah. So the race hustlers of the Democrat Party can't even make an argument for why fossil fuels are bad without pulling the bigotry card, right? They try to smear their opponent as a racist.
Well, they'll say that the CO2 levels are high and so forth, but hey, I got air conditioning, I'm fine. I made this comment. He mentioned the fossil fuels. So on climate change, the problem is not really climate change. The problem is people's ability to respond to it. And I actually think people on the left agree with that. This is why people like my friend Nathan from Digital Gnosis will say this is why there has to be a wealth transfer from rich countries to poor countries to help them respond to it. Because if you are a wealthy nation, if you have time to act, climate change is not a big deal. Yeah, you heard me say that. Oh, there's so many videos out there of, or at least some videos out there of Al Gore with his predictions from, what year was his movie? What year did that come out? About polar ice caps and polar bears and none of which, or very little of which, came true. How else can I stir the pot? Oh, yeah, I wanted to explain this, because some people, their IQs were too low. They didn't understand what I was getting at with this video I made the other day. Let me play it.
Dr. Kornbluth, at MIT, does calling for the genocide of blacks violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Okay. See, did you see the AI generated thing? She actually asked, does the calling for the genocide of Jews, is that against the code of conduct at your university? Now, listen to the answer.
If targeted at individuals not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of blacks.
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms.
You know what? No, some people on the right might disagree with me, but I actually agree with her answer because I'm a big free speech guy. But the point of this video was, would she give the exact same answer if it was about blacks and not Jews? That's the consistency check I was going for.
McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of trans violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
I am asking specifically calling for...
See, and I love that. If the speech turns into conduct. So, for example, if someone says, my race is superior to your race. Now, if that is just speech, what this university person is saying is, well, that's, freedom of speech. They can say that. The problem is when it turns to action.
The genocide of trans, does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today, calling for the genocide of trans is depending upon on the context. That.
Yeah. Can you imagine these people representing Penn University, Harvard, answering the same thing if there were people on the campuses calling for genocide for trans people? Well, it's context dependent. If it translates to action, then of course.
That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
yes
speech
or no?
If the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide?
By the way, I think this Congress lady, Stefanik, went to Harvard.
And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Mexicans violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
Yeah. She said Jews. It can be. But if she would have said Mexicans, would they have answered the same way? I don't know. But my guess is no. Yeah, it's so much fun watching this. These Congress hearings. Okay, did I rile up enough people yet? I haven't seen this one, but here's students detail rampant anti-Semitism on campus. Yeah, let's listen to what students are going through here. By the way, here's the new Speaker of the House, who's a young Earth creationist. Doesn't bother me. There's people in Congress who believe that a cracker becomes the body of Christ, that a man rose from the dead. This is nothing new. Now we got a person in Congress who believes the earth is 6,000 years old or 10,000 years old. Do I agree with that? No. Do I think it's a major problem? No.
I am the daughter of a Jewish mother and an Afghan Muslim immigrant father. I am the proud president of the MIT Israel Alliance, and I am a Jewish student currently immersed in an extremely toxic anti-Semitic atmosphere at MIT. The MIT administration, namely President Sally Kornbluth, has failed to address the crisis of rampant anti-Semitism on campus. There is a radical anti-Israel group at MIT called the CAA. In recent weeks, the CAA's anti-Semitic rhetoric has shifted the culture on campus to such an extreme of intolerance that 70% of MIT's Jewish students polled feel forced to hide their identities and perspectives. An Israeli student whose identity and personal info was sold online for a bounty has not left his dorm room in weeks out of fear due to death threats.
Whoa.
For my part, I was forced to leave my study group for my doctoral exams halfway through the semester because my group members told me that the people at the Nova Music Festival deserved to die because they were partying on stolen land. After a postdoc at MIT said that Jewish Israelis want to enslave the world in a global apartheid system, he falsely claimed that Israel harvests Palestinian organs and implied that the, quote, average Israeli is a Nazi. The DEI officer of his department replied by telling us that nothing he said was hate speech and that the organ harvesting conspiracy theory was, quote, confirmed.
Yeah, what if someone on Harvard said trans people are harvesting organs as part of the transfer of some organs to another body for transition purposes? I know that's crazy talk, but of course, I think Harvard would come down hard on that. But the Jews, not so much. Now, why do people hate Jews so much? That's the question of the day. Here's my theory. My theory is people hate the Jews so much, especially, let's say, the oppressed minorities, some of them in the United States, is because the Jews have been one of the most oppressed peoples in history and yet have overcome. True. Fun fact. Some of the smartest people in the world come from that culture, that race, if you want to call it a race. Success in many fields. And they haven't let that oppression affect them in a negative way. That makes other oppressed minorities look bad. I mean, really bad. You talk about slavery 150 years ago, well, or 200 years ago, think about the Holocaust just 70 years ago. 80 years ago. I mean, Jews make other minorities look bad who haven't overcome. This is my theory of why some people hate the Jews. But I'll open up the room now, and you can give me your theories on why people hate the Jews. Oh, so silly. The way you call in is you just click on this link, and you can talk about anything you want. Yeah, too many Nobel Prizes. But it's a conspiracy analogy. The people who choose the Nobel Prize winners are Jews themselves. Aren't most Jews atheists? No, I think it's still a minority, but it's a big percentage. What about taco crunching, skateboarding, independence? Oh, they're the worst people. You know, in the United States, the worst people are atheists, according to polls. Aren't they like the lowest? Like atheists have to work decades and decades to overcome that negative stereotype. And then they'll have atheist privilege. Where does privilege come from? That's a good question. Oh, you're back. You and your cedar house and your suede shoes, crying the
My
blues.
my suede shoes.
You're a flag-waving phony, poor leftist.
So why would all leftists be poor? Why do you even associate poor with leftists? Aren't there equally poor people on both sides?
No. Not according to
Yeah.
exit polling.
There are more poor Democrats or more people on the left than
Well,
there
if
are
you,
poor people on the right?
when you say on the left, I'm thinking of voting. And if you look at, let's say, people who make far below average income, they tend to vote Democrat more than Republican. Do you disagree with that?
Oh, I don't know, to be honest with you.
You don't know that?
That's why I was asking you, Doug.
Yes, that's true.
Do I need to know that is the question. Like, do I
Yes,
care?
because you just asked me. Is that true? And so I'm telling you, yeah, it's true.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's not something that terribly, like, it's not something, look, politics are I'm not as involved as you are. Like, I don't watch all those videos that you like to bait people with. To get them all
Wait a minute. You don't like politics?
I didn't say I didn't like politics. I don't like, well, that's, so do I like politics? Did you watch the DeSantis Newsom debate?
No. You did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
You didn't want to watch it. Why didn't you watch it? Look,
I was busy. I got a job. I work. I make money for
Bullshit.
so poor people like you. I know you're rich, so that poor people can get the tax money that I earned.
I just want to see the lifts of his that you're wearing, because we know you're wearing those boots he wears, right?
Oh no. I am always in the house. I'm always in socks. But getting
All
back
right.
to
No, that's all I had. I watched the Gavin Newsom debate with the DeSantis, and I wanted to say that I think you're right about one thing.
just
That
one.
one thing, and that Newsom mops the floor with that guy because he's so much better looking.
Oh yeah. Looks play a huge part. That's the biggest form of discrimination. It's not based on color or income. It's how you look. But here's if you want to learn something today, like you say, hey, Friday was a great day because I learned something new. I learned that poor people vote Democrat and richer people vote Republican.
So if we had this conversation yesterday, I could say maybe that was a good day because I learned something from Doug. But today we're about to ride the motorcycles. So nothing we do here is going to compare remotely
What?
to the
Not
next,
only
like,
do you have a
3
cedar
hours.
house, you have motorcycles. Next, you're going to tell me you have a yacht.
Yeah, that's right.
You have hang on. Do you own a boat?
Nope, I don't own a boat.
Okay.
But because I own a motorcycle, does that mean that I have money?
Well, it depends on what kind of motorcycle do you have?
That's correct, right?
What kind of motorcycle do you have?
It's a used Enduro.
Endura. What is that? Some foreign bike?
So it's a WR250 Enduro. Enduro is the style of motorcycle. So mine's geared more for dirt than it is for anything else. So like it's tagged so I can ride it on the road, but it's more capable off-road than it is on road. So we'll ride 5 or 6 miles here from my house to dirt.
You mean you actually ride your motorbike on dirt sometimes?
Mountain bikes, road bikes, dirt bikes.
Man, you're a man of the people. What are you doing on the left? I mean, if you're a man who's willing to get his fingernails dirty and his tires full of mud, you should be voting Republican.
I think this is a misconception. I think it's a for me, I know several people that are empathetic like I am towards their fellow humans that don't feel sorry for people. Because look, I do think like I do think you can pigeonhole a lot of people into that stupid shit you like to talk about with the feel sorry forism, but I don't think it's feel sorry forism, right? Like I don't feel sorry for people. I can empathize with people. It's not the same thing, Doug. Empathizing with someone and feeling sorry for someone, I think, are two totally different things.
Could define empathy without Googling.
Well, to me, I'd say empathy is having. I know how someone feels, so I've been in their position before. So
that's sympathy, isn't it?
I can understand how they feel. For me, sympathy would be more towards the line of feeling sorry for someone. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that.
Okay. So feeling sorry
when
for
I feel-
someone is more sympathy than empathy.
To me, and maybe I don't know I don't use those words appropriately, but when I say I'm empathetic towards someone, it's because I've been homeless before. I've been in the military before. I've dated interracially before. Like when I say I'm empathetic, I've experienced relationships with all types of people in different areas of their life or different stages of their life. So when someone is going through something, I think I understand. I've always been empathetic towards what they're
You
going
just
through.
dated people of other races. I married one.
Or I've been right. That's a good card to have in the back pocket, huh, Doug?
Oh yeah, I mean, I get so much clout from that. I can't be racist now.
Right, that's right. So, but that's what I mean when I say I have empathy. I don't feel sorry for people. Right, feeling sorry for someone is much different than
I'm going to say I'm going to say a sentence, a phrase, and I want you to tell me if you agree or disagree with it. Compassion can cause harm.
Of course.
Excellent. That's my point with this wokeism and feel sorry forism, is that compassion can sometimes cause harm.
Well, of course it can, but that doesn't mean that compassion is a bad thing, right? Like you don't have to. Like
and I never said it was
completely. But I think it's also harmful to have zero compassion, right? Like to be dead inside like you, I think is more harmful than being compassionate towards your fellow humans. Right?
First of all, you know I'm not dead inside, right? You know that.
So, because we're limited, I don't have time to get all mushy with you, Doug. But I think also like that so to each extreme, right? So if you're going to be extremely compassionate, I think it can cause harm because you don't see through some of maybe like we might be missing the mark, right? Like if we're just being, I was raised a little bit differently too, right? Like I was raised, if we had children, I wouldn't beat them, but I think I would be strict in the sense of the way that I raised.
Oh, you don't have kids?
No,
well, that's another reason why you lean left.
The fuck is wrong?
Do I have to teach you this stuff? Okay, I just taught you about poor people voting for Democrats.
It's just because you live in fucking weird Arizona with all those vortexes. You people just to think that like the general population literally leans right because they have children. It's just ridiculous to say that just because you have kids, you're going to lean. No, I don't think that follows at all. Come on, man. How many people on the left have kids, Doug? Tons. You make it now. Oh, God damn it. Can't. Oh, you're going to have to read that to me. I don't have my readers.
Okay. Women with no children vote 55% Biden, 44% Trump. This is exit polls, 2020 election. Men with no children still vote for Trump. Women with children, 56%, 43. Men with children, 48, 49.
That's not a significant difference to me.
Yeah,
I mean that might change.
You're right. This is not significant because even this one can overdo this one.
And it can change within any given 10 years. If it changes, how do we know that's due to politics versus due to just like the way that people are leaning? Maybe you've got some really shitty parents and that's why they're voting more for Trump than you are. Maybe they're just
unmarried people. Unmarried people definitely vote left more than right.
So will you, and God, I can't believe you didn't watch the dissent. So do you watch any of the debates or is it just you're going to vote for Trump and that's it?
I watch clips of it, but usually in the past I found debates to be boring. But I've heard that the debates are actually getting exciting now.
It's only exciting because it's only exciting because it's a dumpster fire, right? Like they literally are screaming at one another. And that's the only reason it's exciting. And no one will say that Trump's unfit for office except Christie. And obviously Christie's a Democrat and Republican clothes, right?
But I want to, before you go, and I know you need to get on your expensive motorbike and drive in the mud. I'm glad you agreed that compassion can cause harm. For example, I would say compassion can cause harm because, affirmative action, it's a way to show compassion to those who have been disenfranchised in some way, but it can actually cause unintended consequences like other people being treated unfairly, like Asians. So compassion can cause harm. I'm glad we agree about that. Do we agree that at least sometimes it's better to be more dead inside?
So, oh God.
Can you give me
Sure.
that?
Yes. So
Okay.
do I agree? Well, right. So if I have zero empathy for someone like you, then I can't say honestly that I wish we'd ship your fucking ass back to Canada.
Well,
Right.
I'm a
So for
white
me to
man. You don't
say
need
that,
empathy. You don't need empathy for me.
I have to. Oh man, that's brutal. So, speaking of bigoted assholes, have you
You're about to say
heard?
something
Hold on,
good, and then you
hold on. Have you?
distracted yourself.
Have you? No, you distracted me. Have you heard the new Tom Rabbit with your friend King Xerxes? Is that
No,
right?
no, I haven't heard.
So apparently he loved the last girlfriend, and you can watch this. I'm just gonna paraphrase, but apparently he loved the last girlfriend he had because she would listen to him rant about the Jews. But he ditched her because when he got to her house after 3 weeks of dating, he found out she had a kid. You got to listen to this. He's just yeah. Anyway, you remember the guy that you had those two wonderful conversations with?
Yeah, I've never really liked King Xerxes that much because
Does it
I don't
bother you
like
that
I don't like talkative people.
you don't like talking to people that
I don't like bloviators. You know that, and he bloviates.
you obviously? Oh yeah,
And
but
he's
just this like part of just
he's a little over the top too. Like he's a lot over the top.
all right. So I'll leave you alone on that. But I do want to ask you about the one quick thing I had, Doug, is the climate change. To
Yeah.
me, is no different than like trans. So climate change gets the left riled up the same way that trans gets the right riled up, and to think that they're not playing this game where the end goal is because they don't care about the trans community. They just care about getting you riled up so you vote the way that they do, right? The same way that
Who's
the left
they?
like starts whichever party that you're going to vote for, right? So the right and the left both are trying to manipulate their people.
I would disagree with you on the climate change issue because climate change. I agree with you. The trans issue. This is going to hurt the trans community, but the trans community is basically nothing in terms of population size.
It's insignificant.
But it is important in terms of free speech, and I've said this many times that it's a great lesson. But with the climate issue, like fossil fuels is an everyday thing that people put gas in their cars. And so when you have policies that reduce the amount of fossil fuel production in the United States and even coal production, that impacts everyday Americans.
Well, you agree that it needs to change at some point. If we actually live on this planet for any number, like at some point we're going to we need to look for
but I'd say
alternative
that could be
right?
1,000 years away.
I would say it's within 1,000 years, if not a couple hundred years. So I think
it could be a couple hundred.
But
you're old enough to remember people saying peak oil back in the 70s and 80s, right? And now we're in 2023.
My simple point is climate change does to the left what trans does for the right, right? These are it's clickbait the same way that YouTube, you click on something and it's nowhere near. You ever watch sailing videos? Every sailing video you'll ever see has a girl in a bikini on the front of it.
The way it should be.
Literally. Right. So I'm just saying, I think they're clickbait to get your team to vote a certain way.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
I think there are. Because you miss I think you miss the serious point. So if you and I sit down at a table and we talk about climate change, I don't think the world's going to end in the next 50, 60 years, but I do think that we need to be conscientious of what we do, right? Like, so that's not to say that I'm not going to, like, we literally live in a place where we have to have no emissions, right? Like I have no catalytic converters on 2 of our vehicles.
You don't?
No, I've got an 83 Ford and a 77 CJ5 that are literally straight piped.
So you've already admitted to me that compassion can cause harm. You don't have catalytic converters. You're a fascist.
I'm a fascist. Are you going to clip that? No, I'm saying that like we are cognizant of the impact that we make on the world, but we do have an older vehicle that we drive in the summer.
So you're a hypocrite, is what you're saying.
Once every couple of weeks. No, I'm not. What I'm trying to say.
You're fooling people with your man bun and your long beard, thinking you're a left wing socialist, but really you're a hillbilly.
Doug, you are the only person that's ever called me a left wing socialist.
Well, after this conversation, you're putting on that persona, but it's obvious you're a right wing hillbilly.
I've never put on that persona at all. I just disagree vehemently with a lot of the right-wing positions, especially the fact that
do you have a couch in your front yard?
How about this? Next week, I'm going to call in and I'll do this in front of the burn barrel. Will that make you happy? Will that?
Oh, there you go. And get your neighborhood friends who are unemployed to be out there with you.
Look, the neighbor next door, when he moved in, was flying a Trump and a conservative flag at the same time when he moved in next door. That's the typical neighbor that I have. And I disagree with both of those flags, right?
True or false? If Trump gets elected, if he will be gone in 5 years after getting the presidency. Is that true or false?
I don't know. I don't think he has any, because I don't think he has any way to stay in. I really think that.
Okay, well then you answered it. False. He will not be in power 5 years from now if he wins. 5 years from 2024.
Right, but we're playing a game instead of having the actual conversation of, do you think he's dangerous? Do you think he can,
No.
No. Do you think he's any? Do you think we should even remotely have him on the ballot?
You could ask the same question about Biden. Like, both of them technically are too old. Both of them are not going to live long enough to see the fruits of their labor, if whatever labor they do. Both of them are not the sharpest knives in the drawer.
But one is literally spending most of his days in court for a number of various different things. And
true or false?
My simple
Trump is guilty of those allegations legally.
Some of them. I would say some. If you say some,
have any of the courts decided on the legal, not the civil? Yeah, so you can't say guilty, right? You have to say don't know.
No, you're asking if I thought he is. Well, I'm sorry. So, right, if you're going to take some objective standpoint of like he's guilty only when elected by which is just I don't agree with, right? Like, so if he is, how about this? OJ, we'll never know if OJ is guilty or not, but he was claimed, or what's it called when you're not convicted? If you're innocent, if you're found innocent,
found not guilty.
He was found innocent.
No, he's found not guilty.
So if Trump is found not guilty of all this stuff, I'm going to say there are some of the things that he did that he's guilty of, and he was just able to finagle his way out of it.
Okay, just like OJ.
That's right. Just like OJ.
So now you're a racist. Man.
Man. But I do like. So who are you going to vote for? Somebody asked this earlier. Who are you going to vote for?
Oh, between Trump and Biden, if they're both in, Trump.
What do you mean if?
Well, it's not guaranteed.
Who else could it possibly be? I listened to some podcast
I still think
today.
there's a chance. It's a non-zero chance that Biden will not run.
I think he came out and said, if I'm not mistaken, I just heard this in a clip of somewhere driving the other day, but he came out and said the only reason he's going to run is because of Trump. If Trump weren't running, he wouldn't run.
Yeah, but number one, he could die before 2024. Number two,
they both could.
And number two, the Democrats could technically force him out.
Yeah, but they don't want to because he's the only one that's.
Hang on. There's a big percentage, maybe not the majority, but there's a big percentage who do not want him to run. That's a fact.
Well, nobody in their right mind. Like, this is the same thing that I think they're. How about this? When you talk about the new Speaker of the House, is that I don't know what his name is, but the young Earth creationist, right?
Yeah.
Like
We already talked about him.
No, I'm just saying about the Republican Party. There are several Republicans out there that are like, this is ridiculous because of the way that we're seen. We voted in someone that is just not smart, right? Like, because at this point you can't be intelligent and think the Earth is 6,000 years old. It's just not a good look.
Let's get back to Biden. He's more interesting.
Sure.
I made the claim that there's a non-zero chance, which is a very light claim, that Biden will not run. And here's a great conspiracy theory. That the whole Hunter Biden allegations of taking foreign money and siphoning it off to Biden Sr. I bet you that there are a significant percentage of Democrats who actually want to see this prosecuted and actually have Biden found guilty of some really bad shenanigans in order for Trump not to win.
Gotta go, Doug.
Okay, see ya.
I gotta go. See ya.
Have fun on your bike.
Yeah, I'll call back in to finish that next week.
Are you gonna wear a helmet?
Yes, Doug, we wear helmets.
Okay, you are a lefty. Okay, see ya. Gotta protect that man bun. If you wipe out on that bike, you don't want that man bun spoiled. But if you have a man bun, do you really need a helmet? Like you hit a rock, that man bun will protect you. Just gotta fall backwards. What do you guys think about that conspiracy theory? That there are maybe 10, 15, 20% of Democrats that want to see Biden found guilty of some really bad shenanigans in order so that he doesn't run. Like, I bet you, what's his name? The Young Turks guy, Unger, actually deep down hopes that. Oh, okay. Here's a guy who wants in. I'm going to predict he wants to talk about climate change. Hi, Sean.
Hello, PineCreek. I'd like to talk about the COP28 and climate change and the end of the world and all that stuff.
Did you hear my prediction before you came on?
Yeah, I was listening to it.
Oh, okay.
I was triggered.
You were triggered. Okay.
But because it's my future, you know, Greta Thunberg style.
You know what your future is, Sean? Let me tell you your future. You're going to die.
I know, but does that mean? I mean, you know, I'm actually a realist about solving the problems of human race. I mean, I think to solve climate change, we're gonna need a lot of sacrifice to be made. We're basically gonna have to live like in the 17th century with a bit of renewable energy, like the Amish, basically. Just copy the Amish, who will have a bit of renewable energy, like technology with it.
You know, I'm not opposed to
because I don't think
the
renewable
Amish.
energy is gonna be.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to copying the Amish.
Yeah,
they got good family values. They trim their beards nicely. I like horses, but the horses give off a lot of methane. You knew that, right?
Yeah, I know a lot.
You know a lot.
I research climate change stuff as a hobby, and it's not looking good. Yeah.
How old are you
Scaring
again?
the shit out of me. 30.
30. Is that the same as 30?
30 years old.
There you go. That was so racist. Do you remember?
Sorry.
Do you remember any of the? Do you remember any of those false predictions made in the 70s and 80s about climate?
Yeah. No, there's loads of like YouTube videos criticizing the environmentalists and all that. I follow it. It's entertaining. Yeah. But, you know, environmentalists not perfect, you know. I mean, I think the Green Party in Germany they did a big mistake with nuclear power in Germany. That was a big mistake.
Yeah, I think there should be way more nuclear power.
I mean, some of the lefty But the problem I fear with nuclear power is that because they are changing now, a lot of countries now are realizing that they won't be able to use renewable energy to replace their coal. So a lot of countries now are going to go to nuclear. But I'm just worried that I don't know, will there be enough uranium resources? Like if we want to replace all the fossil fuels, let's say with renewables and nuclear, I don't know if there's going to be enough uranium to replace all the fossil fuels we're using.
Well, the thing is, the uranium, like from my understanding, nuclear-powered submarine never has to be refueled with uranium. Like it can go hundreds of years.
Yeah, I know that, but I heard the uranium fuel only uses like 6% of the fuel, and the West then they have to throw it away because they can't use it anymore. So there's potential of recycling nuclear waste, but it's more expensive than it's currently. It's cheaper to mine it.
You know where we should put the nuclear waste?
To recycle the waste.
Yeah, we should put the nuclear waste in San Francisco because it's a dump anyhow.
It might change the homeless people to become superheroes.
But Sean, I'll give you the last word. You can say one more thing, but I got my favorite liberal friend wants to call in. I saw him earlier. Please call back. And okay, so Sean, what's the last word?
Can't we not have multiple people on the chat?
No.
Can't we not have? Oh, we can't. All right. So I was saying COP28. That was a big scandal, wasn't it? The fossil fuel CEO guy running the place saying that we shouldn't reduce fossil fuels to solve climate change. That was a bit mad.
I think if you really care about climate change, the best thing to do is to use up all the fossil fuels as quickly as we can. So there's no choice. We're forced to. So everybody should buy an SUV, gas guzzlers. Let's get rid of all the fossil fuels by burning it, and then we're forced to do what you want to do.
Oh, by reducing them very fast, but that'll just cause climate change to go apeshit, and then we just die of climate problems.
Well, but think about it, Sean. If we get the planet warmer, we would kill off, let's say, I don't know, half of the global population, and then that will help the environment.
Yeah, but Doug, that's not very empathetic. That's we have to do things in a business rational way. Like
that's Le Chatelier's principle
in a conservative way.
I wouldn't.
What does that mean?
Oh, sorry. You know what? There's a lag, and that's part of the reason why I wanted you off. But I'll let you go. Le Chatelier's principle is that when you off-balance a system in equilibrium, it tends to shift against it. And I think nature's way of if nature is groaning in pain due to too much CO2, nature will find a way to kill off the cause of it, like us. But I want to live, Doug. Okay. And then what else? What would I do about climate change? I think it's okay to advocate for cleaner air, have better catalytic converters, like Sean before the previous caller did not have. Like we need to, frankly, put Sean in jail for driving around without catalytic converters. I mean, what's wrong with him? He calls himself a granola cruncher. My liberal friend, did you want to call in? Guess not. Sebastian.
Yeah, hello?
Hi, I can hear you.
Am I on?
You're on.
Hey, I'd like to file a complaint, please. I'm dead inside.
What's your complaint?
I'm dead inside.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, I tried to phone the home office in Wichita, and they wouldn't, they didn't give me time of day. But I've been forcing myself to watch your political streams.
Good. Well, you had a big smile on your face.
As a measure. For now, yeah. But that's the that's the upside that I've learned how to deal with this kind of stuff. You know, I've forced myself out of self-preservation to be able to take
Sebastian,
it. This is yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. No, I think that's very good, and I think that's one of the many points of advice that you give out that is actually very useful. But
Yeah.
I also have a question related to your views on Trump. You've stated very repeatedly that you think in reality whatever he did is not so bad. Like what in actuality happened. He lost the election. He left the White House. Just the so-called damage that he caused is very minimal, which is all fair enough. But I think, would you agree that his intentions were there to cause damage, or maybe that his intentions are selfish? Do you think that he has?
What damage are you talking about specifically? What intentions for what?
Well, even let me pull a dog, and I'll grant you that he didn't do any concrete damage to the country or me specifically. I'm not even in the U.S., right? So he didn't hurt me personally, and maybe he didn't even hurt lots of Americans personally.
Well, he hurt their feelings and made them scared.
Well, let's not care about feelings.
What?
Concrete damage, like real damage. Yeah, sure.
What is this insanity I'm hearing? Not care about people's feelings? What are you?
Well, there's a time and place for everything. Do you think his intentions were to really get the best out for all Americans out of the country? Even consider, let's even think that it's just for the United States. So we even forget about.
Do I think in his mind, his intention was for the best of the United States? Yes.
Yes, you think so?
You're asking me to get into his psyche, right?
I think. Sure. Yeah. And based on his.
Let me reverse the question. I answered your question. I answered your question very quickly and directly. Do you think in his mind, his intention was to hurt the country?
Yes. See, I've watched you a lot, and I appreciate the quick
so this is a real disagreement. Okay, so you're saying that Trump says one of my goals is to hurt the country. That's what you're saying?
Okay, let me slightly rephrase this. His goal is to benefit himself, and even if that were to hurt the country, and he's aware of this, he wouldn't care.
Okay, but do you believe that he believes that? Do you believe that he? Because I agree with you. I agree with you that he's a narcissist. But do you? I think he believes that what's good for him is good for the country.
Okay, I don't think so. I think he realized this is going to get tricky because I don't want to over psychoanalyze him. But what I can say, I think he's not the right person to have in places of power because he's not there fully to put his own interests to the side and put the interests of the country and other people first, which I think ideally is what a politician should have. Unfortunately, the other requirements of politicians attracts the wrong kinds of people. But,
okay.
People would like to.
I tend to agree with you there. Like I don't think he's the best person to run the country either. But we can't always have what we want, right? And some people say a country gets what they deserve. So instead of blaming Trump, we should blame the general population who voted him in the first place. But let me reverse it on you. Do you think Biden is the best person to run the country?
The best person? No.
Because didn't you use the phrase
than Trump? Definitely.
Okay. So we both agree that both candidates are not the favorites or that you and I would pick.
Definitely.
Okay. Now what we
but for me, this seems to be the difference between us. I think I look at a guy like Trump and the people that surround him, and I see the worst intentions, like really bad. And there's going to be, and if they get the chance, and also, I mean, Trump is quite clear about this, about his intentions, even if he gets back into power. The one thing that I ask myself the question is, because to me it seems obvious. For example, that he tries to weaponize whatever tool he can get to block his opponents and serve his own interest.
Like
but if his supporters will claim that just give me the analogy. His supporters will claim the same of the Democrats, and I can see this, right? For example, now the Republicans or Trump supporters will say, "Look at what Biden is doing. He's weaponizing the FBI and all the three-letter agencies to put away their And I can see this from their point of view. I can see how it seems, appears at least, that this is the case, that the government is actively, and this is my one big question for me, am I the idiot here? When I look at this, are they right? Or is this actually...
Is who right?
The Trump supporters, when they claim that Biden is using the government for his own purposes and basically to lock up his political opponents, which is the claim Trump supporters often make. Not all of them, most of them.
Yeah, I think the safer claim would be for them that it's not maybe Biden specifically, but Biden supporters are doing this.
Sure, the Democrats or the Biden supporters, so with the Trump opponents.
And this
That's
is
the
why
claim they make. I can definitely see this from their perspective. I mean, it certainly seems like this. So
why does it seem? Hang on. Why does it seem like that to you, or why do you understand that?
Because it is the government currently that is persecuting Trump. Now, whether this is legit or purely for political persecution because he's his opponent, that's the difference. That's the crux, right? Yeah. I think that these cases are justified. And that in the reverse, if, let's say, Trump were to get into power in 2024, he wins the elections, and he will start to open... I'm not even sure that it's possible because this was, like you had in the previous discussion, there are political means to prevent this from happening, and he might be out in another 4 years. But let's say, I think he would try to open cases. At least for me, in that case, it would be pretty obvious that there will be no there.
Well, hang on though, but the thing is, you know how lawyers work. Maybe you don't, but they will find stuff on Democrats that maybe they didn't even want to intentionally find in the first place. Like there's a percentage of Democrats who are terrified if Trump wins, because whatever's happening to him now is going to be put back on them, and maybe even tenfold. And so they're actually fighting for their lives. Some of them, like
couldn't they do this right now though? With the political, they control the House and they're trying to do this now. Couldn't they do this with credible evidence? That's the thing.
They don't control the Senate,
that's
though.
That's what I'm trying to do. No, but I'm trying really my hardest because I'm deadly afraid, not deadly afraid, but I'm worried that I might be blinded, just as I think that they're blinded by lots of things. I'm worried that maybe it's me the idiot that's missing things, and so I'm watching you. I'm trying to watch other news sources to try and challenge these views. So far, I'm not seeing it though. But
not seeing what? Yeah. Like you're speaking in a little bit generalities.
I see the asymmetry. Yeah, I see an asymmetry. When I see more on the right, the American right, I see more people, the politicians, self-centered, trying forward self-interest.
Okay, but this is such a very
in a thin.
It's still a very general claim you're making. You're basically saying I see the right as more self-centered than the left. Is that your claim?
No, the Republican Party.
Okay, I see the Republican Party more self-centered than the Democratic Party. Is that your claim?
In general, yes. There's exceptions.
Okay.
And so my main point is that especially Trump, I think he's the
but Trump's not in power right now.
Republicans. No, but that's why I think that it should be, even though it's maybe true what you said, that the concrete damage that he caused is minimal, I still don't want him near power.
So let me ask you a very simple question.
His intentions for him. Sure.
Well, what does it matter if one party is more self-centered than the other?
Because I think that's the opposite trait you want to have for politicians.
Why?
That's exactly the opposite. Because politicians are there to govern a country for the interest of all the people.
Yes. Okay. So now let's look back at when Trump actually had power. Can you give me an example where Trump did not go with the interests of the country?
Well, I'm not saying that there weren't even policies. Maybe lots of policies from the Republicans that I don't agree with in general. I don't think there were.
Because we didn't have a recession when Trump was in power. Well, that's not true.
I think that's fine.
Yeah,
it's also difficult to say because I agree that it's difficult to attribute to a president like it.
So let's say you're right.
Policies have knock-on effects.
Let's say you're right, and let's say Republicans are more self-interested, especially Trump, and they're egotistical and they're all narcissists, which is not true, but let's say that is true. I could still ask the question, well, so what? And how does that really impact the country and when it comes to in terms of policy? Because the record shows, before COVID at least, the country was fine, except for hurt feelings maybe. But the country was fine. It was doing, the stock market was doing great.
No, I
doing
granted
great.
you this, and like I granted you this in the beginning. Like concretely, did he manage to do a lot of damage? Maybe he even did some good.
And hang
For
on,
me, that
Riley.
doesn't matter, though.
Riley, I'll let you in a bit. Just don't go away. It's a female.
He's getting fed up with the.
No, I'm not getting fed up with you, but it's a female, and we need a token female on the show.
Exactly, you need more balance.
And we actually need more Americans, because you're not even American.
Long story short, I just see in him all the personality traits that I think a politician shouldn't have, and the president of the United States still has a lot of power, even if there's lots of.
Sebastian, I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you that there should be, like, we should not want a person like Trump, as far as, you know, the egotistical, self-interested, narcissistic type, not a good role model for my son, my daughter. I agree with you. But on the unfortunate...
Still you vote for him. You prefer him over Democrat.
I would still vote for him over Biden, without apologies.
Is there not a Democrat that might persuade you to vote to leave Trump?
There used to be, but I think he's now independent. Robert F. Kennedy?
Kennedy? Yeah. Son of?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a big free speech guy, and I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Doug, it's been nice talking to you. I'll let you get on with.
What country are you in?
I hail from the country of your forebears, from a man named Van Menno.
Oh, you're Dutch. Okay.
Mennonites. Yeah.
Are you a Mennonite?
No, I'm not a Mennonite.
Oh, but you hail from the.
I hail from the country where Van Menno's. Yeah, exactly.
Ah, okay. So you like Mennonites then?
Sure, why not?
You think they're the superior race?
Religion, maybe at most.
Yeah, it's a great religion, and that's the problem. That's the problem with the Palestinians. We need to convert all the Palestinians to Mennonites, and the problem solved.
Yeah, might work.
Okay, see you, Sebastian.
See ya.
Got to predict what Riley's going to say. I'm not going to predict. Oh, there you are.
I hope I didn't bait you. I'm actually a trans.
Oh, so you're a trans woman. My token trans woman. What do you want to talk about? Trans stuff?
Well, I don't have too much to say, but I wanted to... I've listened to you for a long time, and I just popped in your stream today. I noticed you say a lot of jokes like triggering, safe spaces, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think that that's how lefty people act in, like, regular lefty people, not like
no.
I don't know, like YouTube roasted by Ben Shapiro?
No, I'd say it's probably 15% of lefties act like
I was just curious about that. Because I live in Seattle, like, you know, the most lefty place. And yeah, I don't know, like, there's definitely a lot of tribalism when it comes to certain political topics, but I feel like the sort of caricatures that you'd get from, like, you know,
from TikTok,
yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely feels a lot less like that.
But the thing is, you know, the TikTokers and the 15% that I'm kind of teasing, they're the most vocal, right? And they're the most fun to make fun of. Now, you said you've been listening to my channel for a while?
Yeah, I used to listen to you, like, it's got maybe 3-4 years ago. Maybe less than that, when I was actually I almost said detransitioning, deconstructing from religion.
Okay, I got a ton of questions for you if you're willing to answer them.
For sure, yeah.
Do you tend to agree with me or disagree with me on my stance on trans issues like sports and women's spaces and that sort of thing, and transitioning surgery?
So I haven't heard of much of what you said. I kind of I listened to you a lot when most of what you talked about was religion. And then once I got more stable in my beliefs, I kind of didn't listen to you as much. And then when I started seeing your videos recently, it seems like you're talking a lot more about religion. I mean, a lot more about politics.
Yeah, I'm started getting bored of religion because it's. I think in the United States, the scale's already been tipped. Like I think Christianity is basically dying. It will never die completely, but so yeah. And I found myself repeating myself with people, so it's not as fun anymore.
Yeah.
But on the trans issues, what I've always said, and I've tried to be consistent on this, is I really don't care what people do when they're over 18 as adults. Mm-hmm. But under 18, I'm against all surgeries, puberty blockers. I think it behooves people to wait till their prefrontal cortex is fully developed before they make any potentially lifelong decisions. And then when it comes to women's spaces, I just say blanket, if you're a trans woman, you should not compete in women's sports, full stop. And if that makes some people sad, so be it. Women's bathrooms is a little tougher, but women's change rooms, I think that biological men should not be in women's change rooms. Now, again, is that after transitioning, am I more malleable on that? Yes, I would say. What other issues do I talk about? Those are the main ones. So my main thing is to protect kids. And I see people who call themselves or view themselves as very compassionate, actually potentially causing harm to children, because I am a firm believer that kids are crazy, stupid, and don't know what's best for them.
You remind me of my dad a lot. No, I have disagreements about some disagreement about most of those topics, but I wouldn't say I'm 100% on the other side. Like, I don't think, I don't know if you saw that new, there's like a Daily Wire movie that they're putting out.
Oh, the Lady Ballers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. I didn't like it.
It seems silly, but
yeah, it was too silly.
But I think sports, you got to be careful. I don't think like anyone who identifies as a woman, for example, should be able to just be in women's sports. I don't think that's super controversial. It seems like
isn't.
most. Okay.
Like 69% of the United States, like they've done polling on it, take the stance I take.
Yeah. When it comes to transitioning kids, I understand the concerns. Like, it is tough. I think the one thing I would have you consider is the younger you do these things, the more of a normal life you can have in a lot of cases. I don't know if you've heard of that actress, Kim Petras. Is that her name? Or am I thinking of someone else? She's in, I think Euphoria is the show. She's a trans woman actress or actor.
Yeah, not familiar.
But anyway, you know, looking at her, you would never guess she's trans, because she transitioned when she was like 7 or something. I think she's German or something. And I get like transitioning at 7. That's scary if your kid's just like, oh, I want to transition. Because kids are
like I'm glad you called in, because I have some questions about like you mentioned this Kim Petras person, age 7. Like, what does it even mean? Like, to say that do you think Kim Petras says that she or
Was that
he?
the right person, by the way? Did you Google it?
I Googled it, but I'm not sure. I'll show you a picture. You tell me if it's the right person.
I don't even know if I would recognize her.
Like, do you say that you think you're born in the wrong body?
So I think my opinions probably aren't the majority. If you've ever heard of, there's a YouTuber called ContraPoints.
Yeah, I know that person.
I'm probably the most aligned with her views. Maybe going along with the whole religious deconstruction thing. I'm very skeptical of like anything that's like, oh, deep down on my inside, I'm this. At least in terms of like metaphysical realities, like I don't think there's like a woman's soul or a male soul.
Okay, well, this is very interesting because I agree with you. I'm a naturalist, so I don't really think it's even possible to be born in the wrong body. So what does it really mean for you when you were born male, right? And do you still say you're male?
I mean, it doesn't come up, but
well, I'll ask you, are you male?
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would say the only caveat is that, at least as of very recently, I'm on hormones, and that changes your physiology in really measurable ways. So things do get a little complicated in terms of like, like I know a lot of anti-trans advocates will say like, oh, you're always a male, chromosomes and stuff, but I think there's more to it because the hormone balance in our body determines a lot of the.
But before you went on hormones, like what is your experience that you had that made you think that you were different in some way?
Oh, so it's mostly gender dysphoria, so negative. I would say more negative experiences than like a positive longing for something else. Like my old name was a very masculine name. My whole life I had this like discomfort with it. That kind of got worse as I got older, but it's just a sort of like dissonance between sort of the experience that other boys had and as I went through puberty and stuff like men had, that I just felt like.
Like, can you be more specific? Like, I know this is personal stuff and you don't have to answer, but what exactly did you experience? Like, you mentioned your name. Like, what about your name made you uncomfortable or?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess the gender association, I mean, just to be, the most obvious thing. It would just be kind of this visceral, I don't know if that's the word, just this feeling of like, I'm in a group setting, I'm hanging out with friends, having a good time, and then somebody says my name and I just feel bad.
But you don't know why you felt bad?
I mean, I would say it's because my name made me feel very male or very masculine, I guess, and I didn't like that.
Okay, like you said, you've watched a lot of my religious stuff, and I will ask religious people outsider test for faith type questions, and I'll ask them why do they believe God exists, and they will give me answers, and then we'll explore it. How did you come to have this belief that you were female or a woman?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even go as far as to like not pathologize, but like say like, oh, I discovered I'm really a woman. That makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't know. At least for me, it's more. I realized that there is a different way I wanted to express myself, and when I started to explore and move towards a more feminine expression,
Okay.
those things make me feel happier.
Okay. I like that answer. Now, and again, I'm going to treat you the same way I treat religious people when I ask these questions. So, there are feminine males out there, men, who don't feel the need to transition. They're just feminine males.
Mhm.
Whatever that means. And even that is, very subjective and nebulous.
Very subjective and nebulous, yeah.
Why do you think you are a male who had these desired femininity and wanted to transition versus, like, what makes you different than that male who's feminine who doesn't want to transition?
I feel like a lot of things kind of get lumped together here, like desiring to transition. Like I wanted to change my name because my name made me uncomfortable, and I was happier when I had a more gender neutral or more feminine name. I wanted to start wearing more
Are you
feminine
getting wet,
clothing.
by the way? Is it raining?
It's drizzling a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But I just don't want to bother my roommates. I'm okay.
Okay.
My dog's out here too. Say hi.
Yeah, you were just explaining why, like, what makes you different from that male who says, I'm a feminine male and I'm okay with that. What do you think is the difference between you and that person?
I mean, a lot of this is just so semantic. Like, I'm not different in a lot of ways. But I guess in terms of the identity that I choose to take on, like we have the way I see it, like we have these socially prescribed roles in society. I mean, you could say gender is just descriptive, but there's a lot of ways in which we have like men and women, and we separate these and we assign a lot of social value to them. And I guess being a trans person would be deciding, okay, I want to sit in this camp instead of this camp. So for me personally, like I have social groups where I change my pronouns and I'm like, I want to be referred in this way.
When you say camps, you mean like women and men camps?
Yeah.
Not necessarily feminine and masculine.
Yeah, like there's a lot of gay men out there that like there's this guy James Charles that does makeup on YouTube. Acts stereotypically feminine, but he would never say that he's trans.
Right.
I think there's a lot
So
of overlap there,
that's what was his name?
James Charles.
James. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explore right now. What makes you different than James?
I mean, I think there's a different goal. Like I want to, like if I could press a button and just be a woman, I think I would. Like I don't think someone like James Charles would want to.
And do you have a reason why you would press that button?
I mean, I don't know if there's one reason, but
because it can't be the femininity portion, because you mentioned James, who's very feminine. Like, so if you said, I push that button because I want to be feminine, well, you can be feminine as a male. So,
well, I guess like the difference between like, let's say a really feminine man and like, let's say like a regular woman, quote unquote. It's mostly societal perception, right? Like a woman can go to a 7-Eleven in the middle of suburban Washington, like, rural Washington, and be mostly comfortable. But like some really femme gay guy is going to be scared. So there's definitely that kind of part of it. Like wanting to be
Oh.
perceived a certain way.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. So you're saying that it is safer to be a feminine woman than a feminine man because you could beat up more as a feminine man.
Yeah, I mean that's I think that's probably obviously true. And this is interesting because like I live in Seattle, that's very hyper progressive. I know a lot of trans people, and there's a big thing with like hormones and voice training and stuff like that, where like traditionally a trans person will do everything they can to like what you call pass. But I know like a lot of trans people now, it's kind of this newer, maybe a newer wave of like trans activism, or not activism, but just like trans people and how they act. A lot of trans people I know don't try to really pass at all. Like they.
Yeah. I've seen them. Yeah, like there's on TikTok.
Oh, okay. I'm not on TikTok.
Yeah.
You're more Gen Z than me, Doug.
Well, yeah, I had some people tell me I should need to get on TikTok because there's a lot of stupid Christians on there.
Got it.
But this is all fascinating to me because I really don't like when someone says I feel like I'm a woman and they're a male. I want to know what that really means to feel like a woman, and it's tough because if you bring up words like femininity, like what does that even mean? Does that mean playing with dolls, wearing pink, wearing makeup? Like you can do all those things as a male and still not be trans. And so I'm left wondering, what does trans even mean?
Yeah, you're really getting into it, Doug. There's some ContraPoints video out there where like she kind of goes through, because she does this role playing thing where she has these different characters, and I remember this one video where she really got into that, and it's like, I don't know, like I wonder if like you're overthinking this a little bit, like at the end of the day, I identify as trans because I'm happier when my friends call me she instead of he, like it's kind of it makes me feel safer and more comfortable in my skin to like feel like I can wear a dress and people won't be surprised. And that like, I mean, the hormones thing is a whole different thing. Like my body will change and is changing, which I'm sure you have questions about, like, why do that if this is all like, it's complicated, but I think sometimes we can kind of overthink it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like I'm all for, if people want to wear dresses as a male, go for it. But for you mentioned the word safety a few times, and for you to be fully transitioned, you feel safer wearing a dress. Yes?
Well, not that I would feel safer wearing a certain thing, but I feel safer being, I guess, categorized in a way where I feel like this is sort of expected. Like, okay, Riley's gonna, Riley is a trans girl, so Riley might wear makeup, or, like, I'm just saying that in some ways, like the label can be helpful.
Does your I'm going to get personal here, and you don't have to answer any of these questions if you don't want to, and it's totally fine. But in terms of your sexuality, are you attracted to males or females? Or neither?
It's changed. So I was sort of bisexual before, but probably more so attracted to women. When I went on hormones, that actually sort of changed my sexuality a bit. I have a boyfriend now, which is very new to me.
A male?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm still figuring things out. I was in a very long relationship. Not to get into this, but like since high school. So I'm definitely still figuring things out.
Okay. Well, yeah, and may I ask how old you? Did you say how old
24.
You're 24. Okay. And when did you start this process of, let's say, even social transitioning?
I remember telling my partner about it maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But there's been some forms of gender dysphoria since, I guess, puberty or
Yeah.
a while back.
See, like my theory is this process of, like you said, figuring things out continues, especially up to age 28 when your brain is fully developed. And I just can't imagine a kid who's 13, 14, 15 years old making these types of major decisions when it comes to puberty blockers or, any type of drugs, and definitely surgery, when they're still figuring things out. Do you agree with me that it's best to wait?
I wouldn't say I agree it's best to wait. I would say I agree that it's very scary and something that should be thought about really carefully. I think the only thing I would say is, or the only thing to push back would be that most people who transition don't regret it. A lot of people regret not transitioning earlier. So there's definitely like if your kid thinks they're trans, like there's things to worry about whether or not you let them transition. Like if
Have you heard of these DCIS studies?
are these like people that like stop like detransition or something like that?
Well, that people who say they have dysphoria and then it desists, it goes away on its own with basically just with verbal counseling or very little counseling. It's just they work through the process of figuring things out, as you put it. And I've seen these studies, and you remind me of them when you said most people don't regret transitioning. But I think we have some hard data out there that says that if, let's say a kid at 12 years old says they have dysphoria, by the time they're your age, it's gone. And it's especially with boys, it's as high as I think 80%. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I'd have to look into that. Yeah. Well, okay. How about this? What do you think of this? If we consider the gender you're born with as sort of a randomly chosen thing, and someone might transition, and then let's say they're either happy or they regret it, or they won't transition, and they'll either be happy or not. Why do you? What's the assumption that it's better to be safe? It's the more safe thing to not transition, as opposed to, this gender that you started with isn't really something that was chosen by you anyway. So, it seems like a gamble either way, I guess. If there's someone with dysphoria who thinks they might want to transition, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I really don't see it as a gamble both ways if we're talking about the serious stuff like puberty blockers and surgery. I think safe better than sorry is far better.
But if they have gender dysphoria, is it really safe? They, for them to grow up and have body parts that make them uncomfortable and
this is great question, Riley, because this is a main fundamental difference between me and I think a lot of other people who disagree with me on this topic. And that is my view on mental anguish is different than most people. I'm okay with a little bit of mental anguish. Because
what's the issue with you're saying, oh, we don't want them to have these hormones and surgeries if they're not really trans, I guess. What's the damage there, and how is that different than the damage of not transitioning?
Yeah, the damage with let's say I shouldn't say most, but a huge percentage of, from what I've read, people who go on puberty blockers then go on to the hormone replacement therapy. And if you do that for more than 2 or 3 years, you basically become sterile in over 90% of the cases. You no longer can have kids.
Yeah, that is, I would,
Right. You agree?
I would agree with that. That's a big thing.
Yeah. So that's a huge risk.
Sometimes I think, like, if these anti-trans advocates really care about trans people, they should be advocating for free fertility treatment, or like
IVF?
like getting
sperm bank?
If they're worried that all these males are transitioning to females and becoming infertile, they should be like the first people to advocate for having your semen stored before you transition, and having that like free or paid for by, like, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I tend to lean capitalist, so I'm not for
Sure.
free healthcare. So no, it's not healthcare is not a right in this country, especially specific procedures, and I don't see it becoming a right anytime soon. But yeah, if you are a male and you know you're going to become sterile and you want kids someday, yeah, freeze your sperm. Did you do that?
And I did, yeah. I don't think, I'm like 90% sure I don't want my own kids. My parents did adoption for some of their kids, not me, but that's something I've always been interested in. And I don't think I'm going to end up with a woman. So, but what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I should mention that I don't know how true this is, but I have heard that in a lot of cases, if you stop the treatment, you do get your fertility back. It's just kind of not something that's been studied. But I wouldn't like hang my hat on that or anything.
Yeah. So given that's a serious risk, not to mention any type of surgery. If we're talking surgeries, there's inherent risks with that, with all surgeries.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but most trans women don't get bottom surgery.
Yeah, I can believe that, because that's pretty serious.
Yeah, I looked it up because my brother asked me about it, and I was like, I don't know anyone who's done that. I know I have one friend who's considering it or planning to do it. But I don't think this is something where like we could have like this epidemic of like 20-year-olds who detransition and they don't have their junk anymore. But I get what you're saying. Like, these are serious things that can affect people in real ways.
Yeah. Have you been suicidal?
No, I've never really been suicidal. I would say my experience has been somewhat mild compared to, I would say, a lot of other people. It was more like I had all those feelings, but never strong enough where I'm like, I'm going to kill myself if I don't transition or anything like that.
Like, one big issue for me is I'm really against this type of emotional manipulation. Like, I'm a pretty stoic type of guy. And I've actually heard people say, would you rather have a live daughter or a dead son? And I'm really against that type of emotional manipulation. Do you agree with me on that that's bad to threaten parents that, hey, your child might die unless you do this?
Yeah, I think that's probably not the best way to approach it. Yeah, like I mean, just in like a rational sense, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get what you mean, that it feels a bit manipulative, like, oh, if we don't do this, we're gonna kill ourselves. Like, but I think the important point is that, like, there are lots of people who are being affected by these things in real ways. And at least in my opinion, like, greater social acceptance of trans people is a good thing and will help people be less depressed.
Yeah, see, that's a tough one for me because I've never, ever in my life been anxious well, maybe once or twice, but like I've never suffered from any type of anxiety or depression. I cannot relate to that. I understand intellectually that people do, but for me, it's like life is hard. Like if you're trans or not, gay or not, black or not, I mean, life is tough. And
yeah, but like, what's the point of saying that? Like,
the point of saying is that you can actually get better at dealing with mental anguish when you adjust your expectations. So, for example, you said feeling safer wearing a dress. You should wear a dress and expect to be punched. And when you're not, you're happy. You know what I'm saying? That's an extreme case.
But isn't it like I live in Seattle. I have a lot of friends that are very accepting and genuinely like me. And, you know, I'd rather live here than in like Alabama where I might get punched.
I understand. And you're a very likable person.
Well, thank you.
I can just tell by your personality type. Like you're not like do you listen to the Transatlantic show?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay, good. But it's a show where they talk about trans issues, and I went on there one time, and I tell you, these trans people are very unlikable. I mean, if I were a trans person, I would say, "Shut up! You're doing the trans movement a disservice," and I would say, "Listen to Riley instead."
I think that's more of an issue with the sort of population that calls into these types of shows. Most of the trans people I know are like busy making silly hyper pop music with their friends, you know, like I think like most trans people I know aren't anything like the, you know, purple hair SJW. I mean, I have purple hair, but you know.
Got to fit those stereotypes.
Yeah. Purple hair and pronouns.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to ask you. I'm still confused a bit about what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a man, because if you define it based on these stereotypical rules, then it becomes this thing that, like, I understand the feminist viewpoint. Like, feminism was all about breaking the stereotypes, but the trans issue is like, no, bring back the stereotypes, because how else do we know I'm a woman or I'm a man? You see what I'm saying? It's very bizarre to me.
I see where that comes from. I sort of feel like it's a misunderstanding in some way. I'm not sure if I can characterize it like I just know, like, personally, the trans people that I know seem to be the first to like push back against those like gender expectations. It's like, I understand that like the identity and the labeling stuff can be kind of, I don't know, feel a little weird and arbitrary, and like, okay, are you just upholding gender stereotypes?
Like, somewhere in your history, you learned, and I did too, that women wear dresses and men wear suits. Right? It's not in our DNA.
Yeah.
It's not in our genes. So it's definitely a social construction.
Yeah, but I think that, like, I mean, this is maybe the most controversial thing I'll say, but I think in some ways gender is those stereotypes and those like sort of arbitrary social things. Like,
okay, yeah, and I agree with you, but then here's what my problem is. Why not just call yourself a man who likes to have his hair long, be called Riley, and wear dresses?
Yeah, I've been asked that before. I think the way I see it is like, I don't think trans people should be expected to be like these martyrs for gender abolition or for like pushing the boundaries of gender. Like, I think it's sometimes overthinking it. Like, trans people just, they just want to be normal, but they just want to be normal in the other way, like, I think you can only do so much for like pushing the boundaries, where like, I think trans people do that, but it's more, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I'm more comfortable being in this bucket though. Like I like, there's
I
some
understand.
acknowledgement, like this is all.
But what I've noticed in my conversation with you here is that you will often appeal to what other people think about you. And this is why I think maybe the trans issue is about personality types as well, and not, and I don't know if that's nurture or nature, but like I could never see myself as trans because I don't care what people think about me. So even if I wanted to wear a dress, I'd wear that dress. And if someone says, you look like an idiot, I don't care what you think. But do you think that is prevalent in the trans community, that there's this desire to want to be accepted and loved, and that they tend to care about what other people think about them more?
I mean, sure, but I mean, who doesn't want to be accepted and loved? Like
me.
Well, you're weird.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I need my own identity, but like I care what my wife thinks about me and what my kids and my immediate family think about me, but strangers, no.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know, like, where's this idea coming from that like, if you identify in a certain way, it means that you care so much about what other people think of you?
Well, you mentioned it, like, and I think it was a good point you made. You mentioned safety. So it's more safe to be a woman wearing a dress than a man wearing a dress if you're walking down a street in small town Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a form of caring what other people think about you for a good reason, like so they don't beat you up. But if it's more or less that people will, I don't know, accept you and just make you feel good, like I'm not into that. I mean, I don't need to feel good from people saying stuff to me or smiling at me or even accepting me.
I don't think you transition for social acceptance. I mean, in a lot of obvious ways, like you'll be way more socially accepted by not transitioning, right? Like, especially if you live somewhere where they're not super into trans people.
Do you think your dysphoria is more nurture or nature?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Do you think the dysphoria that you have had, and you said it wasn't, extreme or that bad, but the dysphoria you have had in your life, do you think it's more caused by nurture or nature?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't grow up in Seattle, so the place I lived before, trans wasn't really a thing. My parents aren't super into it.
Are your parents conservative, liberal, progressive?
I think my dad's a lot like you, just like kind of the way that you seem to view politics and stuff. Definitely conservative. My mom.
But if your dad's like me, he would still love you greatly. Does your dad love you? Okay.
Yeah. He doesn't say it, but he does.
That's good.
Yeah, this is actually a good practice for. I'm visiting my parents in a couple weeks for Christmas.
Oh yeah. If you want to practice on me on what you want to say to your dad and how he might react, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not planning to say anything. I feel like this is the sort of conversations that I'll probably end up having with my parents.
Yeah. Well, have they seen you lately?
Yeah, like FaceTime. Like they know I changed my name. I have like, they know like generally that like I'm presenting myself differently than I have in the past, but yeah, not to get too much into that. I'm not really worried. I know my parents love me. They're good people. So
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've been on here a while, and I've been kind of grilling you with all these questions. But I do appreciate you coming on and talking to me about this sort of thing. Was there anything else you want to talk about that's not trans related?
No, I mean, all I really had was I was curious about like all like the safe spaces triggering jokes. Like, if you feel like this is like what leftist people are, or not leftist, but like, you know, lefty people are like in general. But
No, I'm totally
fully
fully aware that not all people are like the people I make fun of or watch on YouTube. Like I have a poker night where I'd say at least half, no more than half, lean left, maybe even call themselves progressive, and they're very like normal people. I am not this type of right-leaning person who says all Democrats are evil and bad and stupid and crazy. And by the way, if you're left-leaning and you view that the people on the right that way, you need to grow up and mature a little and learn about life. So yeah, but I do think there's about, I don't know, 10 to 15% of the far left progressive who are like the megas on the right. Like they're the equivalent of mega on the right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, Riley. All the best to you.
It was fun.
Yeah,
Have a
take
good
care.
one.
Okay. We got Eats Eating. He was here first, and then Wanderu. Holy smokes, how long have I... Oh, it's under 2 hours. Okay, Eats Eating was here first.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, Riley.
Peace.
Were you interested in that last conversation?
I was interested in why you're confused somewhat on this issue. As a right-leaning capitalist, it should be quite clear what's going on. The left.
Oh, you're talking about the pharmaceutical companies making money?
Well, look at it this way: the left, generally, not all of them, of course, the left say, let's look at the evidence and go with the evidence. The right, and you are right leaning, I think, because for a time you experienced evangelical Christianity, and perhaps your
I wish I knew your first name, because I'd hate calling you Eats Eating.
Eats is good enough.
Eats?
Okay.
I mean, even that name.
Eid is a name in Islam. Eid is like a celebration. Eid.
I know
Eid
you
eats.
Okay, I'll call you Eats, but
don't dox me, mate.
No, I won't.
Don't dox me.
I won't. But
we have.
I got to respond to what you just said, because to me, you're making a very.
Let me finish so you can have a lot to swallow. Then I'll stop talking.
Okay.
As the right is either you're going to be have some sort of moral foundation like Christians or Muslims. There's man and woman, and they have traditional roles, and that's the religious point of view. However, as a capitalist, you have to go with the left, who say, let's hear the evidence. Of course, the pharmaceutical. Do you know that the top 4 companies in America are healthcare and pharmaceuticals? Of course, they own loads of hospitals, psychiatric units. They've got loads of psychiatrists who can provide the evidence that is needed to support their agenda. The left look at that evidence, say, hey, look, the evidence tells us that there will be suicides, there will be depression, there'll be all these people won't be able to function. So that is the evidence provided by your own capitalist system with their own psychiatrists. Therefore, as a capitalist, a right-leaning capitalist, not a fundamentalist Christian, go with the evidence like the left do. Now it's your turn now.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me to have a turn. You're representing what I view as an immature view of life, and which is surprising because you look like you're close to my age. Your view is that it sounded like, and I don't know if you really believe this, but it sounded like you're saying the left bases things on evidence, and you're almost implying the right doesn't. Is that true?
No, they do. The right is the right. The capitalists are the ones who are pushing this agenda. They are the ones who run these.
No, but the
companies.
evidence part. You say both sides value evidence, and
the evidence is manufactured. It's manufactured for consent.
Okay,
so
you're not answering my question.
Left, no, I will. The left are sympathetic to freedom of desire, freedom of life, so that they pick up on all this evidence. That not that they believe it or not, they just say, well, the evidence is out there. We ourselves are sympathetic to.
I'm just going to skip that part then. I'm going to skip that part. But when it comes to the evidence for trans, as I was saying to Riley, well, at least some things to Riley, the evidence I feel is on my side. On a lot of points I'm making.
I believe you.
And I can present it to you. Like even you mentioned suicides. The percentage, we actually don't have good hard evidence on actual suicide. It's always about thoughts of suicide.
Okay. I'm with you. I believe you. I believe the minority view is the minority view.
However, so anyhow, it sounds like
the other side is
we agree on most things on this issue.
Just one last thing. To manufacture that consent, they need, of course, the power of media, social media. They need the power of Hollywood, which has pushed this agenda. And it's
Hollywood's losing its influence, though.
Definitely. Yeah. However, in I think 2017, about more than 90% of American companies had rules against discrimination against LGBT plus people, even though it wasn't law, because they have found out that the LGBT community are more loyal. They spend loads of money on what they like, so it's what they're providing a service for a group of people.
But you didn't come on to talk about this. What did you really want to talk about?
I forgot. I was intrigued by your confusion about
confusion.
And she was yeah. Well, you said you were confused.
Oh yeah. That confusion. Okay.
Yeah. Wokeness. What would you say wokeness is? I think at the beginning you had someone saying what you thought what it was.
I have a whole video on this. Wokeness is a disease of what I call feel-sorry-forism, which is hypersensitivity to often oppressed groups. Yeah, victimhood. And wokeness has to do with oppressors and the oppressed, and the oppressed for being oppressed are automatically right. They automatically have the moral high ground, and they can do no wrong because it's the oppressors who are the bad guys. Wokeness has to do with shutting down conversation rather than engaging in it. A woke person would say, no, you're white, shut up, you're not allowed to talk, or no, you're this, you're that, you're a man, you can't talk about abortion, whatever it might be. It's a bunch of ideas that I'd say maybe 3 or 4 ideas that package into one can be scaled as a degree of wokeness.
Isn't then wokeness this week occurring in the Congress, where a debate was shut down when I think only 14 members voted against it wasn't a bill, it was a view that Zionism and antisemitism were the same thing. So now in America, if you say I'm anti-Zionist, you will be considered anti-Semitic. It's not law, but that's what was voted. I don't know whether you heard about that.
Yeah, I heard something about that, but I've been very busy this week, but so I don't know the details. But I would say that even in Congress, if you're shutting down conversation or debate, filibustering, that's under my definition of a type of or an element of wokeness. Yeah.
And again,
Which the right can do. The right side of the political aisle can do. I admit this.
They can. They can because they've got the money. You know, your AOC. I can't remember her name. Is it AOC Cortez?
Yeah.
When she first came to office, she was offered $100,000 by APEC, which is a Jewish Zionist organization. They do this with lots of congressmen, women, and if you don't take their money, they give the money to your opponents. So that is also no. I think in America,
she's about 95% woke in my books, by the way. Cortez.
Well, there you are. Okay, so she is, but she refused 100,000. She took money from elsewhere, but the Apex she couldn't bring herself to take that money. So that is shutting down conversation, debate. But in America, money has a vote. The dollar has a vote. I think that was a ruling in one of your court cases. So we can't say anything about that. That is democracy. If you don't like it, we'll pay someone else to get to stand against you, and we'll advertise against you until you're voted out. So I just wanted to point out that the right can be very much criticized for wokeness as well, where the victimhood, when the Palestinians are being bombed to hell, and interestingly, Jordan Peterson on the 8th of October said, give them hell, and so Israel has.
Do you support the surrender of Hamas?
Do you know Hamas doesn't matter anymore? They're finished. They still lob rockets every now and then. But when
if I had a button, and if you pressed it, all the Hamas people would surrender. Would you press that button?
There's no point. Okay. The ones who killed innocent people, I'd press it. The ones who killed innocent Israelis, definitely. Let's press it. It's anti-Islamic.
Are you saying there's some good Hamas?
Well, about 400 of the 1,200 were either policemen or soldiers. And the death rate for Hamas seems to be far better than the death rate for Israel. So let's press the button and get rid of all these terrorists, those who terrorize the Palestinians, dropping 2,000-pound bombs on a whole neighborhood.
That would stop everyone if Hamas surrendered.
Well, why doesn't it stop in the West Bank? I keep telling you to look at the West Bank. What's happening there? Statues of historical Palestinian sites are being bulldozed. People are being chased off their land. There's night raids. If you have something on your phone that shows a Palestinian child dead, they arrest you for being a terrorist. There's lots of ways they can call you a terrorist and just put you to prison. Have a look into the West Bank. Let's press the button, get rid of all these people who kill women, children. I'll do it. Would you join me and press the button so Netanyahu can also be killed? Second time now he said he's called the Palestinians Amalek. Second time.
Why does that bother you so much?
Why what?
Why does it bother you when Netanyahu says that word?
Killed.
No. You mentioned that he mentions.
I told you, that's what. You tell me what Amalek means. You tell me what Amalek means.
We already talked about this. This has to do with the.
And it's children being killed. Don't forget what Amalek has done to you. He said to the army again. Twice now he said it. The first time, okay, you could say, well, I didn't mean it in that way, but he said it again.
Okay.
So even if it doesn't mean the whole population of Palestine, he's talking about the Hamas terrorists, along with their wives, their children, and their babies. So that bothers me. Maybe.
Okay, and I'm going to treat you like this was a religious Theist Thursday on this topic. What is the steelman the other side on this topic? Like you mentioned, children are dying, innocent people are dying. What
The steel man is this. The steel man is this. And this is what Ilan Pepe, who's an Israeli, is a historian. He was in 1973 as a soldier in Israel. He noticed when they took over the West Bank that atrocities were committed by Israelis as well as Palestinians.
What's the steel man answer? Pretend you're an Israeli Jew.
Okay, this is what he told Israel. He said the Zionist project was always to get rid of the Palestinians. That's what he said, and no one believed him except for.
You guys hear this in the Russian chat? So I want you to pretend. I want you to steel man the side that's opposite to your side.
I will, and only the scientists believed him because they saw the evidence, and people. When he gave the audience he gave speeches to different audiences, and only scientists got it. They said, "Oh, we didn't know this."
Let me phrase it a different way.
Okay. Now we know that we should kill all of them.
Respond to the opposite side that you believe to make the Palestinians look bad. Try that. Try to say something that makes Palestine look bad.
Well, at the moment, what's being said is that some women were raped.
Okay, good start. Now you're getting there.
And when the UN asked to come and confirm it, the Israelis said, "How dare you question? How dare you question?"
You can't do it. You remind me of Floyd when I asked him to steel man the Nega people.
Women were raped. And so
But you notice what you did? Notice what you did, Eats? You said, and then the UN came in and I mean, you can't help yourself. You can't even role play it.
I don't think you can help yourself because your ears are believing.
No, listen, Eats, watch this. You ready?
Yes. What
the Jews are doing to the Palestinians is nothing more than genocide.
Illegal.
It's immoral. It's evil. They are killing innocent people by the thousands. And there's a long. I am role playing, Eats Eating. I'm showing you how it's done. I'm showing you how you take the other side. Now the history goes back a long ways, and but you would have to say what's happening now starts with the injustices that were done after World War II and every decade since. I mean, there's land being taken away from the Palestinians. Their water has been shut off. Their electricity is being shut off. They're taking money from the Americans and the military support to justify their actions, that this is their territory and that they can hold people hostage within their own land, occupy their land, having them in an open air prison, commit these atrocities by the thousands, and people stand by like, oh, nothing's wrong here. This is a this is how you do it. And you can't do it for the other side.
I'll do it for you.
Okay.
The Israelis built walls to coop up the Palestinians because there were suicide bombings, which killed loads of people, including children.
Go on.
So the Palestinians were cooped up into concentration camps. Then they had to do the same to Gaza. Every now and then, the people of Gaza lob a rocket at Israel, and the Israelis pound them as revenge.
Oh,
usually
you're doing so well, but you notice you use the people, and then
revenge.
they get pounded back.
Revenge?
No, make the Palestinians and Hamas look really bad. Come on, you play the part. Play the part.
The Hamas pounds settlements, and they try to hit Tel Aviv as well.
The evil Hamas pounds. They rape the women. They decapitate the children. No. That's the way you should say.
I never called the Israelis evil. I'm just giving you facts.
No, I did.
Stick to the facts. No emotion. You atheists are too much filled with emotion. You can't think straight.
I was role playing.
Just give the fact. Yeah, but without emotion, just with facts, please. Role play with facts. the Gazans pound the Israelis with their rockets, and Israel decides to destroy all of Gaza as
you don't say it.
And destroy the terrorists.
All
and
of
it's
Gaza.
Unfortunate, they say it's sad when any civilians die. That's what they say. I've heard them. You've heard them as well.
Okay,
that's what they say.
We should vote. I want to let the people. There's 158 people in here. I'm curious to know
what's voting going to do
to show that you did a horrible job. No, I've already skewed. I mean,
I accept that your view is more emotional. My view is I gave it to you as a
this
fact.
is an emotional topic. You cannot talk about war without bringing in emotion.
How many times have you said theists are too emotional? Get rid of your emotions. Stick
yes.
The law.
Yes.
Only the law. The law.
Okay. What's the problem with killing Palestinian children? It's illegal. Oh, right. Okay. You don't think that's emotional? You say, oh, it's illegal. Oh, we do illegal things all the time. I sped the other day. I was 5 miles over the speed limit. That's illegal. What's no big deal?
Yeah, but it's just under the law on war
so what's so
crimes,
bad about killing a Palestinian child?
It's illegal. I'm telling you,
it's illegal.
Let's stick to the law. Stick to facts.
You're trying so hard to be all rational and logical about this when really war is all emotion.
Be rational as well. After 1948, didn't the world say never again? Just that some people thought never again to the Jews. But never again meant never again to anyone. So let's have these laws. Let's not have Dresden. Let's not have Hamburg. Let's not have London. Let's not have Coventry. Let's not have all these other things that happened. And the laws were set up. And one of those laws was disproportionality.
Are you consistent in your stances? Like, are there other oppressed people who are being killed around the world?
After 1948, I'm sticking to the law. So the Tamils, yeah.
Did you hear my question?
Had it bad with them. Yeah, the Tamils had it bad. In Sri Lanka, I don't know whether you know Sri Lanka. Yeah. There was a civil war there. And about 40,000 Tamils were killed.
So you're consistent when you see wars and civilians killed. You're just as upset as with the Palestinians.
I don't
There's
know.
no Muslim, Islam, tribalism going on here.
You have to put it to me. Assad is an evil dictator. I said evil. Sorry. Let's stick to the facts. Assad killed many.
Don't get emotional. Well, actually, being evil can be a fact, right?
Yeah, but
especially in Islam.
Do you think he will agree? No, according to Islam, he is evil. Yeah. Anyone who kills civilians is evil. And even the Hamas people.
Quran is true.
Even the Hamas people who killed civilians that we want to both push the button on, they're evil as well. Have you got any other guests? I think we've chatted.
Yeah. I got another guest, and I apologize. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. See ya.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was fun. Even with the bloviation, it was fun. Wanduru? You sound like a character from Star Wars.
Hey.
Hi, welcome. How are you doing today?
I don't hear you.
You don't hear me? No? You got earphones? Can you hear me?
Sorry, I don't hear you. What's going on here?
Oh man, you waited all this time.
This, man.
Yeah, try refreshing. Refresh. Hang on. Refresh.
Refresh.
Yeah. I wonder, do you know what refresh means? Can you hear me now?
Oh man.
He doesn't know what refresh means.
People.
Leave and come back. It's another way of saying
Leave and
refresh.
come back.
Yeah. Doug knows sign language. Yeah. The universal sign language for refresh. By the way, if anybody needs stamping on their coffee mugs, Uberscheiser is your man. Okay. Let's see if this works. Can you hear me now?
Hey.
Yeah.
Yes,
There we
better.
go. Wanduru. What kind of name is that? Wanduru?
I invented that. It's just like no other.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a character from that would be in episode 1 of Star Wars.
Okay. This is something new, right? This is Political Fridays new.
I have been
So let's
talking
see
about
what's
politics more often in the last few months because I'm getting bored of theism. But if you want to talk theism, I'll talk theism too.
No, I'm okay. I'm just one of those curious people.
Oh, I
About
hate
you,
those people.
you're kind of rare.
Why am I rare?
Yeah.
Because I'm pink in the middle?
be- Yeah, you said, I remember you said last time you said you're a contrarian, right?
Yeah, I'm a maverick in that sense, yeah. It's fun to take the opposite side.
Yeah, is that like a strategy to have more audience, or this is
No.
the way you are, really?
If that's my strategy, I suck at it.
Yeah, I'm one of those curious about this. You're being conservative.
Can you show more of your face or do you got scars?
No, I don't want to show.
Oh, the sun. Okay. Okay, good reason.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the sun. Yeah,
What are you
it's
curious about
coming
me
a
being
bit cooler.
conservative?
It's about, I heard you voting Trump over Biden, something.
Yeah, if the election was tomorrow, I'd vote Trump over Biden, yeah.
Hmm.
Because I want a dictator to take over the world
Seriously.
and round up all the blacks and kill them.
You don't really believe this is going to be right?
Right. I don't believe. Oh, what? Say your question again.
Yeah. You don't really believe he's going to be one of those dictator?
No. And I laugh at people who do
Yeah,
believe that.
because he has to get both houses and also the military.
Yeah, military, all the generals on board is the most important part to take over a country. Yep.
But 60% of military voted for him, actually.
Yes, could, yeah.
The last election. Yeah.
But that's the difference between voting for someone and wanting someone to be a dictator. So this is why I laugh at people who think, oh, Trump's so dangerous.
I think he is, though.
You do? What's the most dangerous? Why do you think he's dangerous? What's he going to do? Hurt people's feelings?
He really has that tendency of, firing anybody who will not be in line with him. He wants the loyalty to himself, not to the Constitution.
Yeah, that's his cabinet, right? You're talking about, or are you talking about? Yeah, that's any
Like
president can do
Michael
that.
Flynn
That's
and
his
those
right.
guys.
Yeah, that's what the power of the presidency gives you. But he can't fire congressmen and senators. Can't fire
correct, yeah.
judges on the Supreme Court.
Yep.
So that's why I'm not scared.
My question is, have you heard about David K. Johnston?
David K. Johnston? Johnston. No.
He's actually a award-winning investigative reporter.
Okay.
And he
says Trump's evil.
He actually traced Trump even before his 2016 election. And his findings were he's like indebted to Putin's oligarchs.
Ah.
So now one of the reasons he's desperate to be president is the immunity, right?
Ah, yeah.
You're convinced now you're not voting Trump anymore.
Doesn't make a dent.
Why? You
For
mean
the same.
the probability of that is very high, that he's really afraid of the oligarchs.
Who are these oligarchs you speak of? In Russia?
Russia, yes.
Oh.
They heavily invested in Trump's assets, like the Trump Tower and the golf courses.
You have been keeping up with
Now
with foreign influence in Biden too, I hope.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, Biden would be the less evil for me. I'm not an American, but
That's fine. We can agree to
I
disagree.
follow the politics. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
You want to make a bet? Do you have money? Let's make some bets. Let's have some fun.
sure.
Okay. What should we bet on?
What are we gonna bet?
Okay, I'll make this bet with you. Do you think if Trump and Biden run, Trump will win or Biden will win?
I think Biden still wins. He has the
Okay, I
base
think Trump wins. You want to bet on that?
Depends on how much. I cannot afford 500 or something.
Well, what can you afford?
Maybe 100.
$100? Do you have Venmo or PayPal?
Yep.
Okay, let's
I
lock it
have
in.
PayPal, yes.
Let's lock it in. So you want to take the bet? $100.
Sure.
If Biden wins, I owe you $100. You email me and I'll send it via Venmo. And if Trump wins, you pay me $100. Okay?
Yep. I'll keep my
Hold out your hand.
Yeah.
This gentleman's handshake. And witnesses, 131. Okay.
Okay.
You want to bet on anything else?
I'll send you my email.
Okay, hang
I'll
on.
put my email in the chat.
Okay, put your email in the chat right here.
Okay, my email.
I got another bet we can talk about too. Oh, I don't want to show your email to everyone. Okay. Okay, you're safe now. Did you put it?
Is this visible?
Which chat are you putting it in? The whereby chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's not visible. Go ahead. Put it in the whereby chat.
Okay.
Okay, I see it.
That'll be my email. You got it?
I got it, but it came up.
funny?
It came up for a second. But I think you're okay. Hang on. Where to go?
So how do I get back to that screen? I'm afraid if I press the X, I might lose you.
No, you won't lose me. And if you do, just come back in.
Okay. Okay, I'm back here.
Okay. Here's another bet I propose. Do you think that if Trump does win and you send me the $100, that he will remain in office for more than 4 years, which would be illegal because he's already served one term? Like that he will actually try and succeed to remain president after
I think
his.
he will try, but he's not going to succeed.
Okay, so that's no bet because I agree with you. He won't succeed.
That's no bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Anything
think
else?
he will try.
Anything else we could bet on?
That he's gonna be a dictator. We agree on that. It's not gonna be.
Okay, so he's never going to be a dictator. We agree on that. He's not going to be in for more than 4 years. We agree on that. So is the only thing we disagree on is who's going to win?
Yeah. Biden
or hang on, Wandura, to be safe. If either Biden or Trump die of natural, peaceful causes before the election, the bet's off. Agreed? Like if Trump dies in a car accident or of a heart attack, I don't have to send you the $100, right?
We don't have to.
Okay,
Cancel.
good. We got that on public record.
If one of them,
if one of them dies, that doesn't count. Or
do you believe that?
Or the A word.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to say the A word, but if one of them is, the bet's off too. Heaven forbid, we don't want that. But there's crazy people in this country.
Okay, I know. How about this? Do you believe that in 2 years, do you think that Trump is having the onset of dementia?
Trump?
Yep. According to his speeches, he's been mumbling,
Mumbling, you say? Trump has been
he was,
mumbling?
no, not mumbling. He was mentioning some off, like, he thought he was running to Obama and then the president of,
He misspoke.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, well, I tell you, when you get older, especially in your 80s or 70s, how old is Trump? He's in his 80s, right?
I think he's just 3 years younger than Biden.
Yeah, I
He's
think
77, turning.
he's 77. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get to that age, you're not as sharp and quick as when you're in your 40s. But you seriously don't think
Sharper, though.
what? Biden you think is sharper than Trump?
Yes, I think so.
You don't have a TikTok account, do you?
Oh, no, I don't.
You don't watch a lot of YouTube that disagrees with you, do you?
Well, I've seen some clips, but those clips were unfair. Like
They're not fair.
they showed only part of it, but if you see the whole video, it's different.
What do you think the average Democrat thinks about Biden's competency?
I think more than 50% of them are still okay with Biden. Yeah, most of them are still endorsing him. But, if I were them, they should bring in Newsom, as the candidate.
Well, facts doesn't care about your feelings. Here's an AP poll. 3/4 of U.S. adults say Biden is too old for a second term. Oh, I said Democrats though. Well, no, even Democrats say that. Look, 69% of Democrats say that Biden's too old. 71% of Democrats say Trump's too old. But U.S. adults right now, and now this is just age. This is not dementia or anything, but you can imply it by age.
I know.
Most of the U.S. population disagree with you on your statement about Biden being more coherent than Trump. If we were to make a correlation between age and, let's say, misspeaking, mumbling, that sort of thing. So there you go. 77%, even 69% of Democrats think that Biden is too old.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very fair to say they're both too old.
They are both. They're not far away from each other.
Yeah.
And you see, if you recall RBG, who died already, she was there still. Her wisdom was still very good.
Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, yeah.
And like in my genetics, like I have a lot of great uncles who lived to be like the high 90s, sharp as a tack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in my genetics, I should really. Too bad I was born in Canada because I'd make a great president. Like I could serve, I don't know, 10 terms and just be as sharp as I am now. And if I were to become president, I would change the laws so I could have a 10-term presidency because that's how good I am.
Wow. Oh yeah. Okay.
Wanderer.
Yeah, my dad is 90 and still remember all the birthdays of the grandkids.
Oh, well, he should at 90. I mean,
yeah.
Your grandkids, you should know that.
Yeah, I think, yeah. If you really try to remember them, right?
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Oh no,
Do you live in the U.S.?
I think
I can still hear
yes, I'm
you.
from Vancouver.
Oh, you're in Canada. That socialist, debauched, and full of chicanery nation.
Yep.
Yeah, I hate Canadians.
I think I lost you.
Yeah, I'll let you go. Thanks for calling in. I'll leave it on that note that I hate Canadians. Okay, I'll take one more caller if anybody wants to call in. But I think I've gone my allotment time. Yeah, you can't trust people from Vancouver. What's a Canadian doing betting on U.S. politics? Actually, I'm curious to know. Start a poll. Will I win the bet?
PineCreek?
Yes. Welcome.
This is the politics channel, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So America is evil.
Okay.
Why do you choose to become a citizen?
Because I love evil.
Wow.
Any other
Well, then
questions?
you're like, we assassinate people.
And?
That's horrific.
Well, not if they're bad and they deserve it.
You think Fidel Castro deserves to be assassinated?
Who?
Fidel Castro?
Fidel Castro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't a threat to us.
I didn't like the
just
looks
reading-
of him. He was too short.
He was.
Anybody under 5'5" deserves it.
Wow.
If you're a real man.
I bet he would have beat you in a fist fight.
Oh, come on. Now you're really trying to trigger me.
He was a guerrilla fighter.
Yeah, but I am a Manitoba farmer fighter.
Like we do things that are illegal.
And?
It's a corrupt country.
Oh.
And you chose to become a citizen here.
Yeah, and thousands and millions of people cross into the border illegally to be here as well. To enjoy the corruption. Look, Xavier, every country has elements of corruption. No country is free from these accusations that you're making. None. Maybe the assassination one, but even then, I bet you a lot of countries. So what is your real point here? That the United States is worse than other countries when it comes to corruption? You really going to make that claim?
I think we're worse than Cuba. Why'd you move to Cuba? With free healthcare.
I'm against free
That's
healthcare.
corrupt.
I like paying for my healthcare.
Most people can't pay for their healthcare because the rich people take all the money.
Oh, are you rich?
I'm not.
Yeah, that's no surprise.
I'm lower middle class.
You're lower middle class. Do you have kids?
Yes.
Why? Okay, I'm gonna rib into you now. I'm gonna shame you. Why did you have kids if you can't afford them?
I can afford them.
Well, you just said you're lower middle class.
Yeah.
Can you afford the best for your kids? I'm gonna shame you publicly. Can you afford the best for your kids? Do they go to private schools?
No. Whoa. Private school isn't the best. They're profit driven. Public school.
Okay, do they go to the best public school districts?
Yeah.
They do. So you live in an affluent area where the property taxes are high and the buildings and teachers are high quality?
South Florida, public school.
What do you pay for property taxes?
That's why I pay rent.
You don't even own a home, and you have kids. Is that a proper way to raise kids in a rental, where they can't even paint their rooms without permission? Why'd you have kids, Xavier? Shame on you.
This ain't about me. This is your channel.
Ah. Don't come in here and try to trigger me and then not expect something back.
I mean,
How old are
you
you?
chose to come here, though. Like, most people are in this predicament. They were born here. You chose
I
to
love
come
this country. It gave me tremendous opportunity. I say that sincerely. I love the spirit of this country. I love the entrepreneurship of this country. I like the power of the military of this country. I love the fact that my neighboring state, California, is bigger than Canada in GDP, or about the same. I love it.
you were for the assassination attempts for Castro. You would have said, okay, yes.
Now we're back to Castro and assassination. Thanks for coming on, Xavier. The man who can't afford his own kids. How many kids do you have? He's gone. Everybody loves a good public shaming. Xavier, I'm sure you're a great dad. Will I win the bet? 67% of you say, of course. Good. So I can expect, I got a 67% chance of making $100, which is $67. This is Doug's worst take. Lower middle class, too poor for kids. Depends on, I got to get the details. And it depends on how many kids he has. But if you, lower middle class, I view as under average household income. And the household income in the United States is 60 grand, right? So lower middle class, I'm thinking 40 grand is his annual income. And if he has 3 or 4 kids, yeah, I'll make the claim that he's too poor to have 3 or 4 kids and provide the opportunities and the best for his children. I'll make that claim. Anybody want to disagree with me? Come on in. Now, it's a very subjective claim. Like, what do you mean by the best? I admit that. But I'm talking about very common sense things like education and healthcare. If you make $40,000 a year and you have 4 kids, number one, they're not going to the best private schools, guaranteed. You can't afford it. If you're paying property taxes and you're making $40,000 a year, odds are your property tax bill is $2 grand. If you can afford a house, maybe 3 at tops. That's not paying for your kids' education. If you want the best healthcare insurance, you're looking at least $1,000 a month for a family of 6, 4 kids, 2 parents. Yeah, I'll make the claim that if you have 4 kids making $40,000 a year, you have automatically reduced options for your kids. What if they all want to take the SATs and get tutors? Let's say they're all, or they need tutors. You got 4 kids in school. Take 4 times an hourly tutor rate. I mean, can you afford tutors for your kids who might be struggling? If you make $40,000 a year, do you have disposable income of, let's say, $300 a week to spend on tutors? Odds are no. The only pushback someone can give on me on this claim is an ickiness factor. It sounds icky to say that. But a lot of true things are icky. Yeah, Baconson. Shame. Shame. But again, Xavier, I'm not making any judgment on you being a good father or not. Well, maybe a little. But now that you have the kids, you could be a great father. And I'm sure your wife is a great mother, even though I don't know her. If your wife was white, would your kids... Uberscheiser, if my wife was white. I don't see color. I only see bald or not bald. But anyhow, if your wife was white, would your kids have the same opportunities for college grants as they do now? Probably not. My daughter went to the police station yesterday to get fingerprinting for reasons, and they didn't have a mixed option on the race thing. It's either you're white or you're black. You can't put WB, BW on the police fingerprint form. You can't tell the truth. You can't say half black, half white. You can't say mixed. You got to choose a box. Yeah, 40. If you make 40K and you have 4 kids, the United States of America in some way subsidizing you. I would say the majority of people in the United States are being subsidized. Maybe it's 55%. Close to half are being subsidized. And maybe, I don't know, 20% are holding their own. And then the other 20-30% is basically subsidizing, paying for everybody else. And I base that on, Xavier's back. How's that great father Xavier doing?
I heard you asking about the income.
Yeah. You're willing to divulge your personal stats?
Yeah. Well, my wife and I are public school teachers, so we make together about $100 grand.
Okay. Yeah. Then that's different. You're not lower middle class. You're above average.
Yeah, we didn't. I feel lower middle class. I mean, with the.
That's because you're just a humble guy. You don't live beyond your means. That's good. But I guarantee you, how many kids do you have?
2 and 1 on the way.
2 and 1 on the way. Okay. And what state do you live in?
Florida.
Florida.
But we're in the most expensive part of Florida.
Okay, I take back living within your means then. You need to, if you have a 3rd kid in the way, you need to downsize, get out of the expensive part, and go live like in the middle part. Otherwise, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, I was born here. But you're right.
Of course I'm right.
How much more inflation's going crazy? How much cheaper is it?
Yeah, that's true. I mean...
If we knew for sure, we'll save 1,000.
You know what you should do? When your lease comes due, don't renew it and go live with your mom and dad. Bring your wife and 3 kids there to live with your parents.
No.
You save a lot of money. And then plus you get free babysitting.
Cuban mothers boss their adult children around.
Oh, that's why you bring up Cuba, because you're Cuban.
Yes.
It's all making sense now.
It would have worked if the U.S. didn't keep trying to kill Castro and take all the wealth.
That's why you're bitter.
You guys stole our revolution. Like literally, like putting sanctions.
I do like Cuban cigars. I will say that. Like in Canada, Cuban cigars were legal. It was okay to import them, but not in the U.S. Which is a stupid rule, right? If I became president of the United States, my first rule of business would be to make Cuban cigars legal.
That sounds so petty.
That's probably the biggest issue around.
You lost an island and now you're making cigars illegal.
Okay, well, I'll let you go, Xavier. You weren't offended when I said you shouldn't have had kids, right?
No, I feel that
No.
way myself sometimes.
Yeah. I was just reading your
Because,
mind. You're gonna like
at
the
times,
third kid. Oh no. How do you say oy vey in Cuban?
what's boy vey?
Oy vey is what is the Jewish Yiddish for oh my goodness, what have I done?
Oh,
How do you say that?
ideals. We just say ideals.
Idios?
I, Dios.
Ayos.
God.
Ayos. Yeah.
A-H, and then Dios.
Yos. Ayos. Okay.
Dios, the Spanish word for God.
Oh, it was ayos for me to let you in here. Like, ugh. See, Xavier.
We've never debated a
Never debated a communist. Oh, was he about to say he's a communist? Everything's fine. Everything's fine. He still loves me. And I still like him. It takes real skill to shame a person and have them still like you. Babyfoot says, I really appreciate your conversation with Riley. You asked great questions. She answered intelligently and thoughtfully. Well, thank you, Babyfoot. Yeah, if you came late, I had a great conversation with a trans woman named Riley. And I didn't... I treated Riley like an adult and asked the questions that I really wanted to ask. So if you didn't watch that, please do. It was civil. It was great. I still have unanswered questions though, but it's not Riley's fault. But I'm probably going to make a clip of that conversation alone. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a conversation like I had with Riley on the internet before. That was that sincere, honest, raw, polite. Yeah, there. Thanks, Riley. I wish you all the best. I really do. I don't understand you, to be honest. I don't understand what you've gone through, what you feel. I really don't understand, but that's okay. I mean, I don't need to. I probably can't ever. It's not in my programming, maybe. But I would never wish you harm against you. And as an adult, I support your decision to make your decisions. I'm a little bit libertarian in that way. So even though I call myself a conservative, you're an adult now. These are your choices. This is your life, not mine. I'll go another round because I've been ignoring the chat. Live chat. Bald or not bald? That's a Curb Your Enthusiasm joke. Larry David had to pick out a criminal in a lineup, and they're all white except for one guy's black. And it was down to two people, a white man and a black man. Larry David couldn't decide. I don't remember. And they were both bald. I only see bald or not bald. Thanks, Anthony. Oh, Anthony, the new VR golf was pretty amazing. It was almost psychedelic. The ball explodes into many balls. The golf ball in some holes turns into this gigantic golf ball or a tiny golf ball. The rest of you don't know what we're talking about. I'm just talking to Anthony right now. VR golf, amazing. Another thing I enjoyed about today's live stream was listening to Eats Eating trying to steelman the Israeli position. That was funny. I think someone who came in for 60 seconds and heard me talk would label me as an anti-Semite, pro-Palestinian guy if they just heard that 60 seconds, because I could steelman them pretty well. I can talk the talk. Yeah, Eats Eating does look like Alec Baldwin a bit. He's probably unemployed like Alec Baldwin too. Sorry, Eats. I'm kidding. I bet you he's a very successful businessman. Yeah, who doesn't like exploding balls? We are just meat sacks that can think, and that's all we are. Well, that's not all we are. We're a little bit of carbohydrates, lipids, water. We're capable of reasoning, which is pretty amazing. I believe in one miracle, I really do. The miracle that we're here. The low probability that we're here is pretty amazing. Yeah, some sodium, potassium. You're right, the logical problem of body armor. You paid attention in high school chemistry. Poof. Have a great weekend, everyone. I doubt if I'll stream this weekend, but if I don't, I'll see you sometime next week.